is about accountability for Prince Harry, holding those newspaper groups accountable and saying, look, you cannot just any way you want gather information about people in the public eye for your stories. It's about holding a really, really huge newspaper group to account and really questioning their ethics.
And Prince Harry is actually due to give evidence on Thursday, and the trial is expected to last 9 weeks. But what are critics saying? It is the whole privilege versus principle debate right now.
Well, yes, exactly. You're right in saying that Prince Harry is due to give evidence in court on Thursday, and lots of people saying that, you know, he's someone in the public eye. He should perhaps expect this to happen. But this is about the principle of the thing. It's not about the privilege. And yes, he does have money to be able to take the newspaper group to court, as do the other plaintiffs that include Sarah Alton-John and Liz Hurley. But yes, he has deep pockets to be able to do that, but it's not about how famous he is or the power that he has. It's about the principle, and him being able to do that, to hold newspaper groups accountable, can make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else.
Hello, family, and welcome back. Now, before I say a single word, you just heard that clip. Because what Afua Hagan just did, very calmly, very clearly, and without theatrics, was blow up one of the UK media's favorite gaslighting tactics. She didn't shout, she didn't insult, she didn't sensationalize. She simply told the truth. And the truth is this. This case is not about Prince Harry being privileged. It's about newspaper groups being unethical, unaccountable, and completely allergic to consequences. And you could practically hear certain editors across the UK clutching their pearls and screaming, "How dare she say that out loud?" Because here's the thing. Afua said what the public has been trained not to say. She reframed the entire conversation. Not, why is Harry doing this, but why were these newspapers doing that? And that right there is why this case matters. Now, let's get into it properly, because the reaction to this case, and to Prince Harry specifically, has been predictable, tired, and frankly, embarrassing. The same people who scream law and order when it suits them suddenly develop a very flexible relationship with legality when the accused is a powerful media institution. Funny how that works. According to critics, and by critics I mean the usual suspects who live in the comment sections and write columns that sound like diary entries, Harry should have expected this treatment, expected his phone to be hacked, expected his private life to be violated, expected illegal information gathering, expected his grief, his relationships, his trauma to be monetized. Because, checks notes, he exists. That's the argument. And Afua dismantled it. She said this is about principle, not privilege. And that distinction is making people furious, because it's correct. Yes, Prince Harry has money. Yes, he can afford lawyers. Yes, he can stand up to powerful newspaper groups in a way most people cannot. And instead of asking why that makes people uncomfortable, the critics twist themselves into pretzels pretending that's the problem. But let me ask you something. If someone has the ability to challenge a system that has harmed thousands of people, and they actually do it, why are you angry at them? Because the truth is, Harry isn't exposing privilege, he's exposing how rare accountability is. And the UK media does not want that mirror held up. This lawsuit isn't about Harry being famous. It's not about him being royal. It's not about him being wealthy. It's about whether newspaper groups get to operate like rogue states. Afua made that crystal clear when she said this case is about holding a really, really huge newspaper group to account and questioning their ethics. And notice something important. She didn't say mistakes. She said ethics. That's intentional, because hacking phones, using private investigators illegally, and harvesting personal information isn't an oopsie. It's not a misunderstanding. It's not robust journalism. It's a business model. A business model built on violating boundaries and then hiding behind headlines. And for years, they got away with it because the victims were either too afraid, too broke, or too exhausted to fight back. Prince Harry is none of those things, and that's why this case terrifies them. Now, let's talk about this privilege versus principle debate they keep trying to force. Because every time someone says, well, he's privileged, what they're really saying is, sit down, be quiet, and accept it. Privilege, in their minds, means you don't get to complain. Principle means you don't get to exist peacefully. It's a rigged framing. Afua shut that down beautifully. She acknowledged that Harry and the other plaintiffs, like Sarah Alton, John, and Liz Harley, have the resources to pursue justice. But then she did something radical. She pointed out that having resources doesn't invalidate the cause. And this is where the UK media loses the plot entirely. Because they want us to believe that only poor victims are real victims. That if you have money, magically harm stops hurting. That trauma comes with an income cap. It's nonsense. Illegal actions don't become legal just because the target is famous. And this case isn't about Harry's feelings. It's about precedent. If Prince Harry succeeds, it sends a message that no one is fair game simply because they're public-facing. It draws a line. And the media hates lines. They prefer blur. They prefer gray areas. They prefer vibes over law. And now they're being forced to explain their behavior in a courtroom instead of on a front page. That's why the tone has shifted. That's why the commentary is getting nastier. That's why suddenly they're obsessed with Harry's motivations instead of their own conduct. Now, let's talk about the update, because this is important. Prince Harry was initially scheduled to give evidence on Thursday, but the schedule has now been updated. Opening submissions wrapped up earlier than expected, which means Harry's testimony may now be moved up to Wednesday. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about how prepared he is, I don't know what will. This man didn't rush into court. He didn't stumble in emotionally. He didn't wake up one morning and decide to sue the press because of vibes. This has been methodical, strategic, documented. And the media knows it. That's why they keep trying to paint this as a tantrum instead of a legal reckoning. But here's the thing. Tantrums don't last 9 weeks. Tantrums don't involve multiple plaintiffs. Tantrums don't survive disclosure. And tantrums don't scare billion-pound institutions. Accountability does. And that's why Afua's commentary matters so much. Because she didn't play into the circus. She didn't turn this into a personality debate. She kept it where it belongs, on ethics, law, and responsibility. And let's be very honest for a moment. If Prince Harry weren't doing this, the same people criticizing him would be screaming that no one ever stands up to the media. They want accountability, just not when it makes them uncomfortable. They want reform, just not when it costs them clicks. They want victims, just not ones who can fight back. And that hypocrisy is exactly why this case resonates globally. Because this isn't just about Harry. It's about every person whose voicemail was hacked, every family whose grief was exploited, every private moment turned into public property without consent. Harry is the face, but the issue is systemic. And Afua Hagan understood that, which is why the reaction to her clip has been interesting. Notice how no one is actually disputing what she said. They're disputing who said it. They're uncomfortable because she's calm, articulate, and factual. You can't dismiss her as hysterical. You can't accuse her of being emotional. You can't say she's uninformed. So instead, they pivot. They attacked Harry again because it's easier than answering the question, why did these newspaper groups think they were above the law? And that's the real trial happening here. Not Harry versus the press, but truth versus entitlement. The UK media spent decades positioning itself as the watchdog, but who watches the watchdog when it bites illegally? Apparently, Prince Harry. And that irony is delicious. Now, as we head into Harry's testimony, potentially on Wednesday, understand this. This is not going to be the dramatic ambush some outlets are hoping for. This isn't reality TV. This is a man laying out evidence, timelines, and consequences. And the more they mock him, the more they reveal how scared they are of precedent. Because once accountability enters the room, impunity has to leave. And that's why this case matters. Not because Harry is special, but because he's refusing to be silent. Afua Hagan didn't defend Harry out of fandom. She defended the principle. And principles don't expire when someone becomes famous. So, to the critics shouting privilege from the sidelines, Congratulations! You've accidentally admitted the system only works when people can't afford to challenge it, and that's not the win you think it is. We'll be watching closely as Prince Harry prepares to testify, because this isn't just history in the making, it's accountability knocking and the media pretending not to be home. Stay tuned, because this story, it's only just getting started.